Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, February 27th, 2020, and pretty much today's headline is going to be something that I didn't think I would be saying for a pretty long time. Joe Biden is officially surging in one of the early voting states, the state of South Carolina. After his pretty good debate performance, a lot of people do think that this past debate was Joe Biden's best debate by far, has since jumped up rather quickly in the South Carolina Democratic presidential primary race. As a result, 538 has adjusted a number of other races as well heading into Super Tuesday, considering that debate was also the last debate before Super Tuesday, which takes place on March 3rd. So this Saturday primary for South Carolina will be very, very interesting for a number of reasons. This will be the true test of African American vote in the Democratic primary because, as the end of Nevada, 99.9% of African American voters had not voted in the Democratic primary election, whether that's through states such as South Carolina, Alabama, Maryland, California. They just had not voted and have not had their voices heard in any of the primaries or caucuses that have currently happened. So pretty much this South Carolina primary will determine, not necessarily entirely, but we'll give a general idea of which candidate is winning amongst black voters by the most amount. There was this whole idea that if Biden lost in South Carolina, he would pretty much be done in his campaign. And to be completely honest, that is right. If Biden loses South Carolina, if these polls are proven 100% wrong and Sanders ends up winning, Joe Biden will have an extremely hard pathway to the Democratic nomination. And of course, if he doesn't reach that, then he doesn't reach the presidency or even have a chance at it. But South Carolina, after that debate, you can see it on this graph. Biden always had a strong lead in South Carolina. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, progressive-type candidates never really gained much traction in South Carolina. Hillary Clinton won every single county in this state back in 2016 in the Democratic primary, winning over 30% more of the vote than Bernie Sanders. But now the race is split up. Tom Steyer somehow is resonating well in South Carolina in third place with 14% of the vote. And also, like I had mentioned in previous videos, Bloomberg and Steyer definitely are taking away from Joe Biden's numbers as well. But after that debate, you can see Joe Biden visibly jump up. Right before the debate, Joe Biden had 23.3% of the vote. Bernie Sanders had 21%. After the debate, Bernie Sanders is at 21.8% and Joe Biden is at 34.4%, back to almost where he was before Bernie Sanders started taking over nationwide. And that's a really good sign for the Joe Biden campaign. Not to say that Bernie Sanders still isn't the front runner, because there are new national polls that pretty much reinstill the idea that Bernie Sanders is still the front runner at 29% nationwide. But this definitely gives Joe Biden a better look to the future, especially going into Super Tuesday. That debate performance was exactly what he needed in order to gain back traction in South Carolina, and it's definitely paying off based off of these numbers. Not only is RCP showing that, but also 538. Right before this primary, Bernie Sanders led and was expected to actually win South Carolina according to 538. Now, if you take a look at the chances, you can see the overall dip. It was about even right before that debate, and then all of a sudden, Bernie plummets, and then Biden skyrockets all the way up there. So it's more likely than not that Joe Biden wins in South Carolina, forecasted to win an average of 40%. He was supposed to win by 4% just a couple days ago. So this could possibly put Biden's campaign back on track to actually becoming competitive, because if Bernie Sanders won here, there would be nowhere else for the Biden camp to go. But it looks like they may end up holding on to South Carolina. However, there is no guarantee that Biden does well in other states. Predominantly black states, I can understand why Joe Biden would do well, but he's going to need to resonate with voters such as California, Virginia, which are states that Hillary Clinton did well in, but Joe Biden is not polling or expected to do well in either. The thing about that entire scenario is Joe Biden has been underperforming in certain states. So when it comes down to close races, I don't think South Carolina will be close. But let's take Texas, for example. It looks like it's going to be dead heat as to who wins this. Joe Biden recently came into favor by 538, but if he underperforms, well, then Bernie Sanders carries Texas. Not I think my screen recorder just cut out, but I was talking about all these states and I didn't realize up until now. So let's go ahead and head back up to Texas where I finished off, or at least the recording finished itself off. But just we were talking about Texas. Biden up here, if he underperforms, doesn't do him justice. But moving over into states such as North Carolina, Biden again recently came into favorite. Moving over to Virginia, Biden definitely has a chance of overcoming Bernie Sanders here. If you look, if he builds it and he takes in that momentum from South Carolina, well, we very well could see a Bernie Sanders loss in Virginia, even though he's expected to win as of right now. Massachusetts was always expected to be either between Sanders and Warren, though Biden did do pretty well at a given point in time. I'm surprised Warren's not doing better than that. Home state definitely makes a difference. Same thing here. Klobuchar is expected to win, but again, this is her last hurrah. She's not really going to go further than Minnesota, to be completely honest. This might be a Democratic primary win for Klobuchar. She's definitely going to get her name up there on that chart on Wikipedia where it shows her winning one state. But other than that, I do think that she's going to end up dropping out sometime soon. New Colorado poll out today. Bernie Sanders is definitely leading Tennessee. We had just mentioned this. Biden jumping up past Bernie Sanders. Alabama was close, but still Biden is expected to win. Overcomes Bernie Sanders there. Oklahoma, Biden surprisingly, even though this was a solid Bernie Sanders Democratic primary state in 2016. So things definitely do change. As for Arkansas, same thing. Biden definitely bumped him up here. But what's interesting is that if you take a look at all of these southern states, a candidate that is doing phenomenal in all of them is Michael Bloomberg. And to be completely honest, if Bloomberg was out of the race, Joe Biden definitely would have a lot more support in some of these states that could make him even closer to being a rival with Bernie Sanders. But again, Bloomberg is practically only in the race because he sees a pathway to victory for himself. To be honest, he is doing pretty good as a person who came into the race only recently and now is in third place nationwide, overcoming Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren. One person you're not seeing place too well is Pete Buttigieg on this map. So, not on this map, on these individual states. So keep that in mind when discussing candidates that will move further after Super Tuesday. I think Buttigieg will stay in the race, but he's definitely going to be hurt there. Utah, Sanders territory by far. Taking a look at that estimated delegate in Maine as well, Sanders territory. Vermont, obviously, that is Bernie Sanders' home state. It looks like it's a 100% chance of victory, but that's expected. American Samoa cannot vote in the general election, by the way. They can vote in primaries. Was for Biden at one point, now is for Bernie Sanders. However, it looks like Biden may be inching up due to the only reason I can attribute to all of this is Joe Biden's debate performance. After he had done well at that debate, this is the last one before Super Tuesday and South Carolina. So I think that it should be pretty interesting just taking a look at the results after all of this has occurred. But I'm so excited to see sorry, who ends up winning the overall Super Tuesday delegate count. I do think that it will be Bernie Sanders, but if Biden continues to ride this momentum and he picks up a large victory in South Carolina, we could possibly see a Biden victory in Texas that could counteract the California win for Bernie Sanders. But other than that, I think this race is starting to narrow its way into a two-way race between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. The only third-place candidate that I could actually see coming into play possibly is actually Michael Bloomberg, only because he has so much money and such a big ego that he's not going to drop out of the race. It's going to be a very interesting election season. In fact, if you scroll up to what's more expected, a Bernie Sanders victory or no one winning and going into contested convention is officially taken over. Before, it was Bernie Sanders winning, and then all of a sudden, a huge dip. Biden goes up, Sanders dips down. No one winning jumps up as well, 51% chance, the highest it's ever been. And it looks like that actually may end up with a contested convention. So this is just how each candidate's chances of winning more than half of the pledged delegates. They do have a plurality. Obviously, Bernie Sanders takes that one. But Joe Biden actually looks like he might be getting closer up there if you just take a look recently. But again, this is a very minimal bump for right now. Things definitely can change. But at the end of the day, that debate definitely was helpful for Joe Biden, and it might be just in the right time for him to recover in a state such as South Carolina and other states on Super Tuesday, such as Texas, North Carolina, possibly California, possibly Virginia. and the rest of them. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow. I almost forgot to mention that I will be having my own Democratic primary poll. Right now, this is just a little test run, but I've included 4 to 5 questions on this Democratic primary poll just to hear from you guys what you guys personally see and just compare it to the overall national average. Pretty much it's just going to ask you your first and second choice for the Democratic nominee and then a number of choices without certain candidates, in this case Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, and Bernie Sanders, where you would pick based off that. So the link will actually be in the description below and also in the comment section. But I actually may be doing a little bit more of these, and also I'm going to start picking up subscriber decided election nights as well. So make sure to go ahead and check this link out down below.